heard rather in the Apex Court more than 2 years after the completion of hearing. The Gujarat High Court is likely to deliver its verdict in the Godhra train carnage case. Several appeals were filed in the High Court challenging the special court's verdict. 59 car sevaks returning from Ayodhya in the Sabarmati Express were burnt to death on the 27th of February 2002 that triggered riots across the state. A special court in 2011 awarded death to 11 persons, punishing 20 others to life imprisonment for the act. Anusha is with me. So Anusha, the High Court today pronouncing its verdict on the set of appeals challenging the convictions and appeals. Is that right?
That's true, Vandika. So there are 11 death penalties which were awarded. 20 people were given life imprisonment and 62 were acquitted. So one of the key things that needs to be seen is whether the acquittal, the 62 people which were acquitted and the state government had appealed against them, does the High Court overturn that judgment? Because that was one of the key points of argument at the High Court. The second and the most important point is, will the death penalties be confirmed? All the death penalties by the trial court need to be confirmed by the High Court. Till then, they are not confirmed as sentences. So will those death penalties be confirmed by, because it's about 11 people who have been given the death sentence. And most importantly, you know, the argument of a larger conspiracy. The trial court did agree that there was in fact a larger conspiracy, and that directly has an implication on the acquittals. So will these 62 people who were let off, will the High Court act against them? These are the big questions that we await the answer.
And we are getting in breaking news related to the Godhra verdict. The Supreme Court, that's the breaking news that we're just getting in right now. Relief for 11 who were sentenced to death. The Gujarat High Court had changed the hanging to life term of 11 convicts in the Godhra case. So the Supreme Court giving relief there for 11 who were given death. And that was the news that Anusha, in fact, was just telling us about a short while back. The Supreme Court commuting the sentence of 11 death row convicts. Anusha, that's the latest news that we are getting in right now from the courts. What's the latest?
So, Vandika, let me just put into perspective. A special court had sentenced 20 people to life imprisonment and 11 people to death in the Godhra case, in the Sabarmati Express case, in which 59 people were burnt alive. Now this matter reached the Gujarat High Court. What the Gujarat High Court today has done is it has converted the death sentence of 11 people to life imprisonment. So the death penalty, which was awarded by the lower court, has not been upheld by the High Court, and the High Court has in fact converted it to life imprisonment. Now this is in line with you know, the judgments that we see in this country, where death penalty is given in a rarest of rare situation, and the rarest of rare is not a defined conjecture. However, mostly India is one of the countries which does not have a lot of death penalties awarded and executed. So that is in line. The court is probably looking at a longer term. We need to see that what that term of the life imprisonment would be. There are different gradations on that as well. But for now, it is clearly a relief for these people, 11 people who were convicted and sentenced to death. What needs to be seen is further, as the order comes by, as this judgment comes by, is whether the High Court has done anything on those 62 people who were acquitted.
All right. So, Anusha, basically, primarily, the Gujarat High Court was hearing the set of appeals challenging the convictions and acquittals, right, by the special SIT court in the train incident, the Godhra train incident of 2002.
That's right, Avantika.
So you told us about the 11 people who were given death sentence and now that being converted to life sentence. What about the others who were acquitted? Were there appeals challenging the same as well?
Yes, the state government had appealed against these acquittals which were given by the trial court, and in fact the state government had put in a very persuasive argument saying that if there is a larger conspiracy, the court must understand that there is in fact you know, the involvement of these people as well. We must understand that this entire case was based on the confessions and one of the eyewitnesses who was present at the site. So clearly the identification of these people was also a problem in this entire matter. So what needs to be seen is as we get more details of this order, as this order trickles in, if the court has done anything about those acquittals, But as of now, the death penalty converted to life imprisonment for 11 people, a major order coming there from the Gujarat High Court.
Yes, that's a big order coming in, and also a big relief for those who had been awarded the death sentence, for the 11 involved in this case who had been awarded death sentence, that now being changed to life imprisonment.
That's right, Avantika. And, in most of these cases, in fact, this was one of the cases that provoked the riots. But the mostly in jurisprudence of this country, for such cases, we have not seen death penalty being awarded. And 11 people being sentenced to death, it is very unlikely that higher courts will uphold it. And, we are increasingly one of those countries which are talking against death penalty. In over a decade, there are rarely 2 executions which have happened. So this was on much expected lines. That this, death penalty judgment might be overturned by the High Court, in which has happened in this case. What needs to be seen is whether the state government will appeal against this order at the Supreme Court of India. We still wait for more details to come in on this crucial order in this riot case.
Absolutely. And in this case, while we are talking about the 11 who were given death sentence and that being converted to life sentence, there were 20 others also, Anusha, who were handed out life imprisonment at that time, right, by the special SIT court on in 2011?
Yes. So as of now, the detail we have is that life imprisonment stays.
Okay.
Nothing has been that hasn't been done. So 20 people awarded life sentence, 11 added, so 31
so
people
31.
So far who have, yes.
Right. So 31 of those involved in the case have now been awarded life sentence, life imprisonment. Just a quick reminder, the special SI court on the 1st of March had convicted 31 people, acquitted 63 in the case. 11 were sentenced to death at that point, and now that order being turned, the 11 who were awarded death sentence will be now given life imprisonment. 20 were handed out life imprisonment. There is still, questions and appeals against the acquittal of the 63 in the case. That matter, Anusha, about the 63 acquittals, where is that being heard? Will that also be taken up by the Gujarat High Court?
Yes, in fact, there was an appeal against those acquittals, at the High Court. And what needs to be seen is whether something has been done on the acquittals that has happened. As we get more details of this order, we are trying to find out whether the High Court has touched that. But prima facie, the information is that those acquittals have not been changed, and those people who were acquitted continue to be acquitted. It's only the death penalty of 11 which has been commuted to life sentence now. So I think the court so far has not really touched on the merits of the case. What their entire, thing has been is to make sure these death penalties are commuted to life. We'll have to wait and see what the detailed judgment is all about, because the state government is likely to appeal against these acquittals at the Supreme Court as well. This continues to be a very politically controversial case. We also saw recently the plea of wife of Ehsan Jafri being dismissed.
Yes,
and now the crucial order coming in the Godhra riots case. So clearly, as far as 2002 riots is concerned, a lot of crucial developments coming in from the courts in Gujarat.
Absolutely. Several appeals, in fact, were filed in the High Court challenging the convictions, the Gujarat government raising questions against the acquittal of the 63 people. But the latest bit of information is that in the verdict by the special SIT court on the 1st of March 2011 that had convicted 31 people, 11 people were sentenced to death. That has now been changed to life imprisonment. The High Court taking that decision. So in all, the court convicted 31 people, and those 31 will now be have now been handed over, in a way, life imprisonment. The court convicted 31 of them while accepting the prosecution's contention that there was a conspiracy behind the incident. But there are questions that have been raised against the 63 others who were involved in the Godhra carnage case. And now that bit news is coming in, with the death sentence for 11 commuted to rigorous life imprisonment by the Gujarat High Court. That is the breaking news right now on the broadcast. The death sentence that was awarded to the 11 accused has been commuted to life imprisonment has been commuted, in fact, to rigorous life imprisonment by the Gujarat High Court. Anusha Soni continues to remain with us. Anusha, the Gujarat government had even questioned the acquittal of the 63 people. Did they move the Supreme Court in this regard?
So they did not move the High Court. They did not move the High Court, Supreme Court yet. This matter is yet to reach the Supreme Court. As far as the High Court is concerned, Avantika, they did move the High Court against these acquittals. Their argument was that if there is a larger conspiracy, then the court should look at the fact that all of these people are likely to be involved in this matter. This entire case is, weaved and knit upon the testimony of eyewitnesses and also a lot of confessions which have come in. About one confession which was one of the very crucial evidence in this case. Now, in that confession, there were identifications as well which were done of people. So these 63 acquittals we saw, but of course the state government's main argument was that these acquittals should have not happened. They fought it vigorously at the trial court and also at the High Court. But it seems like that the court, giving a benefit of doubt in all these acquittals, has refused to delve into the matter. They have merely commuted the death sentence. As the details of the order trickle in, we will know more about the reasoning of this case, whether the High Court has tinkered with the reasoning of the case and the merits of the case.
Yes, but there's an important update also coming in, Anusha, while you were speaking, that the High Court also observing that the government failed to maintain law and order in the state. In fact, blaming the state and the railways together for failing in their duty to maintain law and order. And in fact, the Gujarat High Court also giving 10 lakh compensation to victims in a time span of 6 weeks. So that big news coming in there. What does this really mean for the Gujarat High Court with the High Court, for the Gujarat government, with the High Court holding it responsible for failing to ensure law and order in the state?
So imagine, Avantika, there is a conspiracy going on of burning an entire coach of an express train, which was done with a concerted effort. The railway premises, which is a government public space, comes under the protection and jurisdiction of the Railway Protection Force, and a larger conspiracy being hatched to ensure and spark off riots in the state comes under the purview of the state government.
Yes.
So clearly, even earlier, even the trial court had observed that the state government had failed in its duty to ensure law and order. This is also something which repeatedly the commissions have been saying, that the law and order situation was such that the state government should have acted much more swiftly and much more with precaution. And railway police are clearly one of the biggest losing parties here, because under their watch this entire incident happened and there was no police authorities or railway police officials on the site. So that is of course one of the main points that the High Court is talking about, that there is, if nothing, a responsibility of the state to ensure that there was some kind of law and order that they should have maintained. And it's only keeping that into mind that they have given this compensation, that it was the fault of the state that it was not able to maintain law and order, and the railway police was not capable of giving any sort of protection to the travellers, to the commuters in that coach.
And that's big news coming in there from the Gujarat High Court, commuting the death for 11 convicts to life in prison. In fact, the court was today, the Gujarat High Court today was listening to a set of appeals challenging the convictions and the acquittals by the special SIT court. And now the Gujarat High Court declaring its decision, deciding to commute the death for the 11 convicts to life imprisonment. Tell me something, Anusha, do we know who were the petitioners? Do we know that who filed those appeals, who challenged the conviction and the acquittals in this particular case?
Well, of course, there were the kith and kins of the people who were convicted. But in this case, at the High Court, it was the state government which has had gone on in appeal, against the acquittals. At the same time, the kith and kin of the people who were convicted had also moved the court, saying that their death sentence should be commuted to life. That is something that the court has done today. So there were appeals and cross appeals from both the sides. The state was, of course, one of the key litigating parties. The key argument was that there was, in fact, a larger conspiracy. It is one of the rarest of the rare cases that the death penalty should be upheld, which the High Court today has disagreed that it will not be. At the same time, the state government vociferously argued that the 62 acquittals need to be looked at once again. But the High Court clearly saying that that cannot be done. At the same time, the responsibility of the state and the railway police to ensure and give basic minimum security from any kind of larger conspiracy. The state failed in its responsibility, and hence we see those observations, in fact comments, I must say, in the judgment which has come from the Gujarat High Court, and they've also awarded a compensation, a further compensation to the people, to the kith and kin of the deceased.
Right, so the big news coming in right now from the Gujarat High Court that was today hearing the set of appeals challenging the convictions and the acquittals by the special court in the Godhra train burning case, the 2002 Godhra train burning case that triggered communal violence across the state of Gujarat. Over 1,000 people lost their lives, and in this particular case right now the decision being taken by the Gujarat High Court to commute the death sentence for these 11 convicts to life in prison. That's the news that we're just breaking right now on the broadcast at this hour. The death sentence for 11 commuted to rigorous life imprisonment by the Gujarat High Court. And, this is, Anusha, also coming at a time when the entire debate on death sentence is being talked about in courts, the Supreme Court also wanting to move away from death penalty, the Gujarat High Court commuting the death to those 11 convicts to life in prison.